The views and opinions expressed at Enhanced Down Under are those of the hosts and do not necessarily reflect the official views of the company. Any content provided by our hosts are of their opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.
Hello everyone, welcome to Enhanced Down Under. This is the official podcast of Enhanced NT and my name is Carol. I'm a registered migration agent.
I am Anna, a qualified education agent counselor.
In this episode,
We are going to continue our discussion regarding the legal basis for student visa application based on the Migration Act. But before we dive on that topic, let's just have a recap of what we have talked about during our episode 9, which is having the proper mindset in migrating. Well, again, it doesn't have to be in Australia, but before you come here or before you consider moving to another country or to another place, you have to have that proper mindset. Careful planning should be involved, proper research, and prepare yourself to face all the challenges. And I believe we have also talked about the support that the Australian government has for people who are, suffering from loneliness or depression.
there would be some phone numbers.
Yes.
That they can. We should have that linked on that previous episode. That's the episode where we went outdoors to shoot at the Stokes Hill Wharf.
I like that place. So yes, because Australia is strongly advocates for mental health, so they have this support system. You can call the hotline of Beyond Blue and Lifeline if you need help about if you're suffering from mental or some depression and you need support on that part, then you can dial their hotline.
Okay. So as Anna previously said, this is part 2 of the previous episode where we were talking about the legal basis for assessing a student visa application. So in the past episode, we didn't have the screen working at the time. So today we're gonna actually be able to show it on the big screen so that you guys might be able to relate more. So this is kind of technical, but we want to go through with it anyway, just to show everyone that here at Enhance NT, we actually look at the regulations. We don't just go to the Home Affairs website, which is public information for everyone to see, although a lot of agents offshore just use the Home Affairs website when
as their guide,
as their guide. But here at Enhance NT, we go to the actual regulation. So here in the screen, you can see Legend.com. So this is actually what the visa officers access. We look at exactly the same information visa officers use. Okay, and this is not publicly available because it's a paid subscription. Okay, so I don't know. It's not meant for individuals because it's not cheap. It costs $800 Australian dollars a year to subscribe. Okay, so that's Legend.com, and here you can see Migration Acts, Migration Regulations. Well, I'm not going to have a professional development seminar right now, so let's just dive into the subclass 500, which is the student visa, right? So in the past, we actually talked about this in the previous episode already, where the thing is when visa officers are looking at an application, this is the legal basis that they're supposed to kind of tick off. Like, for example, we're in the primary criteria. So in the primary criteria, that refers to the main
Applicant.
applicant, the main student. Okay? So here you can see 500.21. So yan yung unang kailangang i-tick off nung visa officer. Like, does the student meet 500.211? This one is very basic, okay? The applicant is enrolled in a course of study. That's why we ask for letter of offer
Or COE,
or
the Certificate of Enrollment.
certificate of enrollment. So if you're offshore, you already we ask you for a certificate of enrollment kasi that's your evidence that you are enrolled in a course of study. But if the application is made in Australia, it's a little bit more lenient. You can just have a letter of offer even though you haven't made any deposit yet. Letter of offer lang muna. But only applies if the application is made in Australia. Okay? Seeking to remain Australia because anyway, yan yun. Okay, so we went to this really quickly before and we didn't have a screen before, but I just wanted to show it so that you guys
can relate more.
And we're not making it up. So 500,212. Ito yung sinabi natin na dito pa lang nare-refuse na ang madami. Majority of students will not even get past this criteria 500.212. Why? What does it say? It says the applicant is a genuine applicant for entry and stay as a student because why? Ayan. So, this is the GTE. Dito pa lang sa 500.212, a lot of applicants already get refused because the visa officer is not satisfied that you intend to genuinely stay in Australia. So, they will consider your circumstances, immigration history, and if the applicant is a minor, the intentions of the minor's parents. Most of the time, dito nare-refuse. Any other relevant matter. So, ano ibig sabihin ng any other relevant matter? Basically, anything. Anything that they think
that
of.
the visa officer would see or would not see in your application.
Anything goes. Kasi nga, any other relevant matter, it's very general. So, kahit anong maisip
It's very
niya.
vague. So the visa officer can just justify na, it's under any other relevant
Yeah, and
matter.
most of the time, the student visa applications are refused under any other, under that clause. So, in order of hierarchy, we can see na nauuna yung COE, and then ito na agad. GTE na agad because it's very, very important. So, dyan pa lang, that it's a very high threshold to get past that criteria. Kasi ang kasunod na, 500.213, na to?
English language proficiency.
So, this now, this is about the English na. So, hindi ko nababasahin lahat, okay? It's all there. It's about the English. 502.14 is about the funds. So, the finances is the last. Not really the last, pero
second to the last.
Second to the last. Second to the last siya. So that means, wala nang nare-refuse on finances anymore. We rarely see any refusals based on finances.
The finances. And if you're going to check the document checklist tool of the Home Affairs, sometimes the evidence of financial capacity is not being required depending on the country of passport.
Yes, correct. Should we show it to them in document checklist?
If you can, so at least they have an idea.
This one that we're gonna show you right now is public information. You can do it yourself. Document. You just Google it.
Yep.
Document checklist tools. Okay. Because you might see agents, other agents offshore who marketing the institution, a certain college or university. No IELTS required.
Yeah.
Just deposit.
Just to invite more people.
Pero you really have to check
it
for yourself,
yes.
okay? Kasi there comes minsan biglang nagbabago yung yung law,
Yes.
and then that agent is screwed, you know. You promised me no IELTS. So for your own, you must do your due diligence,
Yes.
'di ba?
That's
Hindi
for
porket
your own
sinabi ng
protection
agent.
din. Oo, you have to do your own research.
So this is the website where you can go. It's public information. This is the Home Affairs website. Ayan, you can see at the top, it says imihomeaffairs.gov.au. So here, you put in your country of passport. So let's say Philippines. Diba? You're from the Philippines. Ganyan. And then, where are you going to study? Your education provider. So for example, ICAE. International College. Where is it? Of Advanced. There you go. Okay. So, majority of students will be on this category.
All other
students. Okay? So, then click on Display Evidence. And then, it will generate the required checklist. So, here you can see the requirement. If you're someone from the Philippines applying to study at ICAE, this is what applies to you. Identity, which
Basic
basically,
requirements, yeah.
passport, passport lang talaga yun, actually.
Usually passport,
It's
yes.
only passport. Evidence of intended study, COE. If you're under 18, welfare arrangement. And parental consent. Yung parental consent, that refers to kung under 18 ka nga. Diba?
Yep. That's only applicable for minors.
Oh. Yeah. Or if you have a child, if you're bringing a dependent child with you, both parents of the child need to consent for the visa to be granted. And yung last but not the least is the
health insurance.
The OSHC, Overseas Student Health Insurance. So this is different from the visitor health cover. Meron pa pala. Hindi pala last, sorry. Ay, parang nangyari. Kanina wala yan.
Maybe it was still loading. Yeah.
Ayan
So
pala.
yeah,
Dumami.
evidence of financial capacity.
Kala ko hanggang dun lang. Okay, so, ayan. Here are the requirements. So, if you're someone from the Philippines, you need to provide evidence of financial capacity. So, that's the funds, right? And required na rin ang English language ability. So, baka nag-apply na yung bagong
Yung
law.
bagong law.
Oo.
Yeah,
The new law now applies, which is, we've been talking about it, yung stricter visa rules for students. So, now we can see, if you're studying at ICAE and you're from the Philippines, you need to provide evidence of English language ability. Before, it wasn't there before.
True. It was only very recent that I checked their document checklist too. And funds were not required then.
Yes, that's right. And
I think it was just last week.
Just last week,
Yes.
wala yan, di ba?
Yes.
So, kakaload lang. Na-apply na nila. And of course, the GTE. So, this is where you have to write your statement of purpose, or SOP. But I think they should put this at the very top, not here at the bottom. Kasi this is the most important part.
Yeah, they're going
Diba?
to base their decision on your GTE statement.
Well, it's probably because this is not the legal basis. This is just public information. So, but if
That's why.
Yeah. But if you look at the legal basis, it's at the very...
It's just second, yung GTE.
Oh, it's already
Number one
second most
requirement
important.
is yung COE or letter of offer.
Yeah. Diba? Teka, I just want to make sure. So, the GTE, change of name, if you have, that doesn't really apply. Ayan, employment history. Before, wala rin yan. Hindi yan nire-require before. So,
basic lang before. Merong health insurance. Meron kang yung evidence of funds is not required. Parang very basic. Now, they have added more.
Yeah. So, now you have to show that kung ano yung naging trabaho mo. Because that's to check if you have the relevant background in your intended study.
True.
Okay? And then if you have an agent, you must have signed Form 956. Okay? If you were speaking to an education agent, the form is 956A. Okay, so there's two forms, 956 and 956A. Okay, so most of the other, this will not apply, yung enroll. Pag may anak ka, if you have a dependent child coming with you, then yeah, you have to provide school enrollment for dependents starting from the age of 5. Because 5 years old is the studying age here in Australia. Okay. So, yeah, hindi pwedeng sa bahay lang sila. Kailangan merong evidence of schooling arrangements. Okay? And then research students, ano ba yan? Ano yung research students? Undertaking research in, so research usually to masteral or PhD. Yeah? So anyway, that's the document checklist tool for you. And you can compare, if you want, you can compare other countries. Pero this is already very, very detailed. No?
Detailed this time.
Oo.
They added more requirements.
Mm-mm. So I would say this only applied in the last 2 weeks lang.
True.
So let's go back to the regulations or LegendCom. Let's go to the policy. Kasi itong nakikita nyo na 500.216, ano lang yan, that's the law. Okay? Pag nagre-refuse ang visa officers, they would usually cite or they would use one of these. They only need one criterion to refuse you. They don't need to use all of them.
Just one. If they are not satisfied with just at least one criterion,
only one, refuse na agad. Kaya nga I was saying earlier, dito pa lang sa
any
GTE,
other relevant matter.
pag dito pa lang, stop na. They don't even need to look at your finances anymore. Kasi kahit na ang dami mong milyones, you have all these millions of pesos or thousands of dollars in the bank account, they're not even gonna bother looking at that anymore. Because they just need one criterion. If they're not satisfied with just one, application is refused. Okay? So, ganun na kahigpit ngayon. So, now I want to go to the policy. So, policy is it's like the guidance for visa officers. Like if they're not sure of the legal basis, they can go to policy. For guidance. So how do we go to policy? We can just click on the word student here. Yan, nakita nyo yan, yung student. I'm just gonna click on that. And it's going to direct me to the policy. Yan, policy. Dali lang ha. So this is actually a very long document, okay? So again, it's not public information. You need to be subscribed to this
It's
platform.
a paid subscription. Yeah.
Okay? So here, it really goes down to the nitty-gritty details of each regulation. So, punta tayo dun sa sa GTE kasi yun naman yung that's the most important part. So, let's see what does policy say about GTE. Teka lang ha. Secondary criteria, genuine applicants. So, we can see here, primary criteria for visa grant, 3.10.2, genuine applicant for entry and stay as a student. So, let's click on that. So, I clicked on the hyperlink, and this is what it says. So, yan, dinidiscuss dyan. Clause 500.212 provides that the primary applicant is a genuine applicant for entry and stay as a student. Three distinct considerations. Bago to Three distinct considerations feed into an officer's evaluation of whether this requirement is satisfied. O ano yung tatlong distinct considerations. This is really new. Kasi almost
the last
memorized.
time, di ba, you were not able to access Legend properly. Maybe they were updating it.
So, sabi, ito yung tatlo. The intention concerning the length of stay, that is, there is a genuine intention to stay in Australia temporarily. That's the first one. Number 2, there is an intention to comply with any visa conditions. 3, any other relevant matter to the subject. Any other matter relevant to the subject matter, scope, and purpose of subclause 502.1.2. So, yun na naman, yung any other relevant matter na yan. Ano yung last paragraph? Sabi, all applications must be considered on their own merits, taking into account all relevant information and supporting documentation. Ano ba yan? All documentation provided by the applicant. If officers make a finding that the applicant is not a genuine applicant for entry and stay as a student, the decision record must clearly show
the
officer's thinking and how they formed their view based on the information and evidence and evidence before them. So, must clearly show the officer's thinking. So, dapat hindi na rin copy-paste.
Usually, it's copy-paste.
Kasi thinking nga, dapat so daw mag-isip.
So, you have to elaborate on.
Diba?
Kasi, when we were in immigration, parang mas maraming work. It involves a lot of more work if you're going to refuse the application.
Yeah.
Kasi you have
It's
to
more
justify. Work. So, parang kami, as case officer din, parang mas gusto namin, syempre, to approve the application. Because to refuse, it involves a lot of work.
Yeah, because we have to clearly think.
As stated in the legislation,
Pero,
in the policy.
I've refused a few in my days as a visa officer, and talaga namang
refuse.
Hindi ako talaga masyado nagti-think noon. Kasi nga usually it's the same lang naman eh. I'm not satisfied na genuine ganon. So you just sort of copy paste.
Yeah.
Masakit siya for a student.
Yes.
na ma-refuse. Kasi lalo na kung
the amount of effort and money
lalo
involved.
na when you see another person's refusal and you see that it's exactly the same, 'di ba? Parang
copy paste.
Parang I'm a unique individual person. Bakit parehas tayo?
Isipin mo, parang pinag-isipan ba talaga to?
Oo, ganon. So if I don't know, I guess I'm sort of appealing to Home Affairs to, be more considerate na nakakasakit kasi kayo ng damdamin. But they don't care, right? So sobrang dami kasi. Kasi, actually
they're doing their job.
They're just doing their job, and we know where they're coming from, There's volumes and volumes of applications every day.
Yes.
It's just never ending. And you have to go through them. And you actually have a quota to finish.
They do have a quota.
Yeah, like if you're not deciding more than 25 applications a day, they're probably not gonna get fired, but they're gonna get called into the office.
Yes, principal's office is what we call that.
So
why are you not meeting your quota?
How are you? What's your workflow?
Yeah, to give people a better understanding. Most often than not, these case officers, they render overtime during the weekends.
Yeah.
Just to catch up with the volume of applications that they are receiving. Ganon.
Yeah. But I like the overtime, so over the
extra
weekends.
Money. Extra money. When I was with the Home Affairs, whenever we are being called to render overtime on a weekend, go.
Yeah. And usually like after overtimes, like we would go out and go to the malls after. Anyway, let's go back to the to the policy. Okay, let's not reminisce down memory lane. Okay, that's all over now. The boat has sailed. So anyway, yung any other relevant matter kasi talaga yung gusto kong itackle.
Kasi parang it's very vague na.
It's so vague. How do they, and yun yung pinaka-common na nakikita natin na any other relevant matter. So, what are they saying in the policy? So it says officers are bound by the direction and must refer to it when assessing whether an applicant genuinely intends to stay temporarily. So hindi pa to yung genuine student. Wala pa ako nakikita. Applicant circumstances, very typical. Potential circumstances in Australia, the value of the course to the applicant's future. That's already very typical. Yeah, we always advise our students to address this, right? Teka. What we're looking for is yung exact advice, policy advice. Here. What are the circumstances in which further scrutiny of an application may be required? Okay,
yeah.
ayun.
Interesting.
Circumstances, so kailan sila
Mag-scrutinize
scrutinize.
talaga.
Ano ba yung scrutinize? Like really look at it.
Dig
right?
in, alam mo yun, digging about the information, tigingan.
Pero this is interesting, okay?
No.
Itong paragraph na to, let's read it. If further scrutiny of the applicant's circumstances is considered appropriate, officers may request the applicant to provide additional information and or further evidence to demonstrate that they are a genuine temporary entrant. Pero we know for a fact they don't request for any more documents.
Yes.
You know?
Usually, when you submit your documents, that would be it.
Although, nasa policy actually yun, that they are advised to request further information. So, just reading at this policy, it's not really geared towards refusal. Kasi it's advising na, you know, mag-request ka ng further
Kuha
information.
ka pa. You cannot. You cannot just don't refuse it based on the legislation. Maybe, as a case officer, ask for more information.
Yeah. So, hindi to na-follow in practice, yung nagre-request ng further information.
Maybe, isa bang factor dyan is the number of applications.
Yeah.
They don't have time to do that anymore.
Yeah. Kasi nga, it's about quotas na.
Yeah.
Okay? So, ano pa? Officer, ito pa, interviewing and requesting additional information to assess GTE. So, we don't hear about, ewan ko ngayon ha, dun sa bagong stricter visa rules, are they going to start interviewing people or calling them up? Okay? So, what are the instances where they will call you? So, as sabi dito, officers are to consider what types of evidence they require, whether information can be obtained at interview, whether they require documentary evidence to satisfy themselves that the applicant is a genuine temporary entrant, and whether a referral of further investigation is necessary. So I think in practice, very rare, but who knows, we'll see in the coming in the coming months if more interviews will be present. So you guys should prepare. If you submit a visa application, prepare to be called, even though you're probably not gonna get called, but be prepared anyway. So it's usually like, what are you studying? Where are you going to study? So at least know where you're going to study, right?
You just have to be consistent with your answer. Your answer should be consistent with what you have submitted
On your statement
Yes,
of purpose,
yes.
right? But you know, sometimes the student gets so rattled and panicked when they get a call from
Kasi it's
immigration.
from the immigration. Oo
You
nga
know,
naman.
when they hear, this is from the Department of Home Affairs, they're like, oh my God, oh my God.
Sometimes they are not. We cannot blame them. Communication may not be their asset. Kasi
And
maybe,
it's a surprise call, right? So
sometimes I hope
maybe
the case
maybe
officer
you
would
guys
consider.
Yeah, no, like guys, you should say, I'm really nervous.
Be honest.
Yeah, be honest. I'm really nervous and I don't know what to say. and you know, if you say that instead of, you know, take a breather, right? Para the case officer can consider that, yeah, you're nervous. And you know,
That's
if
a good tip,
you said that, I mean, they have to consider all the circumstances, right? So if you're feeling that way, say it out loud. Say it out loud. Don't try to like pretend
Don't try to act that you're okay.
Yeah, because you might say stupid things and you won't be able to take it back. Yeah? So just take a breather. What else? So this is typical applicant circumstances in their home country, potential circumstances in Australia, value of the course to the applicant's future. Let's look for any other relevant. Ayan. GTE and other relevant matters. Yan, kita ba? Officers must consider whether there are any other matters that are relevant to the applicant's intentions for a temporary stay in Australia. The decision record must show that there was consideration as to whether there are other relevant matters. This includes information that may be either beneficial or unfavorable to the applicant. So, paragraph 502.12 may be the grounds for refusal if the evidence does not support a finding that the applicant intends to stay indefinitely. That is, not temporarily in Australia, but nevertheless indicates the applicant is not a genuine student. Okay, so an applicant who does not satisfy officers that they are a genuine temporary entrant cannot satisfy 500.212 and the visa must be refused.
Ayan na.
So, yun. So, here it's still saying na yung temporary ka lang dapat. Diba? What are my thoughts on this?
But with the stricter rules, the GST, they say,
Genuine
to
student.
To replace the GTE, they have this GST where you can be honest with your intention to eventually migrate. You can mention that in your statement. I don't know if that would be applicable now.
Well, that's the vibe that we're getting from immigration, that they are, just based on the news articles, that they favor those courses that have a permanent pathway, but they still have to be convinced that your course is only temporary. How do you strike that balance? Wait, baka meron dito. Let's see here. Dual intent. Okay.
Ayan.
Dual intent. A settled intention to remain in Australia permanently at the time of application is not consistent with the GTE requirement. So, yun. Dapat, dun pa lang sa student visa, at the time that you lodged your student visa application, you don't have any intention to remain permanently. However, the next line, it does not automatically mean that the applicant does not meet this criterion. There is nothing in the Act or the regulations that necessarily negates any capacity of officers to find that an applicant who intends to seek a permanent visa genuinely intends to remain in Australia temporarily if that visa is not granted. The decision depends on the officer's assessment of the applicant's intent. Translation, please. Translation.
So the decision is with the case officer.
Bahala na sila.
Yun yan. Kasi andito, the decision depends on the case officer.
Okay. Look, take a balanced approach when considering the weight to be given to this consideration. The vibe that really we're getting is the vet courses, sila yung tagilid. Vet courses.
Sila talagang directly hit of the stricter visa rules.
Especially yung mga business courses na leadership and business courses. Yung mga tagilid. So we have now found the policy regarding any other relevant matter. This is the third consideration that the visa officer considers, and it's actually the most used topic for refusal. Okay, so just reading it. Paragraph 500.212 is broader in scope. May scenario sila. There's a given scenario on how the visa officers can apply this apply
Any
this
other relevant matter clause.
Can you read the scenario, Anna, for our viewers?
Okay, so everyone, a person arrives in Australia on a subclass 600 visitor visa and soon after applies for a subclass 500 visa. Okay, so that's clear. Entering Australia in a visitor visa and then nag-apply for student visa. The applicant sets out in their GTE statement their reasons for proposing to study an English language course, namely that it will assist in their business back home. They also state that they have an 18-year-old child who is about to start medical studies in Australia and they would like to be with them for a few months to help them adjust to a new environment. Their child has a solid offer of employment in a major hospital in their home country when they complete their studies in 6 years. The applicant is granted a subclass 500 visa, completes their English language course, and then applies for and is granted a series of subsequent subclass 500 visas over a 3-year period. The officer assessing the latest application observes that there appears to be no logical relationship and little or no progression between the courses being selected. The pattern of behavior indicates the applicant has been identifying further courses to remain in Australia, at least while their child is in Australia. If the officer makes a finding that the applicant intends to stay indefinitely in Australia, then it is likely that the applicant does not genuinely intend to stay in Australia temporarily. However, if the finding is not that the applicant intends to stay indefinitely, but for a defined period to be with their child, the officer will have to deal with the other considerations beyond the intended length of stay. In this circumstance, the officer may find that the applicant is not a genuine applicant for entry and stay as a student. This finding can be made under paragraph of any other relevant matter.
So let's break this down, this scenario, this sample case scenario. So basically, there is a mom who came to Australia on a tourist visa at first to be with her child. And her child, who is
Enrolled
18 years old, is also a student visa holder.
Medical studies.
Correct?
Yep.
Pretty common. Pretty common scenario. Mom comes to Australia to be with their child. I know someone who did that. And then they want to stay. So mom also applies for student visa, studying an English course, right? So typically, English courses are, the longest is 1 year if you're going to study English. But normally 3 months lang yun eh. Pero the longest is 1 year. And then she keeps doing this for 3 years, right? And then yung latest application. So does she apply for a fourth time? The officer assessing the latest application. So we don't really know how many times she's already applied.
But for the past 3 years,
but
she's been doing
only
this.
that she's been applying for multiple student visas for 3 years.
For 3 years.
Why? Because her child is studying for 6
Medical,
years.
studies for 6 years medical course.
Well, we don't know what the child is studying. It doesn't mention. Medical studies. Medical studies. So studying to be a doctor maybe, and already guaranteed a job in the hospital for when
they return
the child
to their home country, the child has a guaranteed job.
Wow.
Solid offer after finishing the 6 years of study.
Okay. So the most recent application of the mom, the officer is starting to think,
you keep doing this.
I feel like the courses you're applying for, it doesn't have any progression. So that's the key word, progression, right? Or no logical relationship. What does that mean? Maybe the courses don't really, they're not relevant. There's no connection between one course to another.
Oh, maybe, example, maybe nag-elikos and then the next nag-cookery or kung whatever course
and after cookery, leadership. Okay, pero I think the key word here is little or no progression between the courses being selected. So this this visa officer is now thinking maybe the mom doesn't intend to stay in Australia temporarily. But like I was saying to you before, I wish they would have a definite definition for temporary. Actually, I think there is a definition in legend. Let's have a look. But I don't think there is a temporary. There is.
For the temporary?
I don't think there is a duration.
Okay.
But there is a definition
Okay. For
of the word temporary. Let's look for it. It just came to my mind just now na meron nga pala. Sandali. Ay. Ang hirap maghanap dito. Hirap maghanap sa iPad. Ay, nako. Teka ha. I'm gonna get there, promise. I will get there. Be patient with me. Definition. Visas. Preliminary. Interpretation. Dapat kanina ko pa ito ni-ready. Sorry.
That's okay. Enjoy watching Legend for the meantime.
Go to page 2. Alam ko kasi meron eh. Okay, we're in letter M na. Letter M. N-O-P-Q-R-S-T. Ayan na. Student visa. Nasa page 4 siya.
Page 4.
Ayan na po. Transit. Tourism. Temporary. Ay, wala pala, sorry.
Temporary activity. Sponsor na to eh. Oo.
Sponsor na. Temporary activity sponsor. Ay, nako. So, wala. So, there's no definitive.
When they say temporary,
It means not permanent.
Oo,
So,
not permanent. Although
of-
they did not clearly define how long temporary
Oo,
is.
yun ang very subjective. Very subjective yung ano.
Eh, paano eh? You're staying in Australia for 8 years, but you still consider yourself
Oo.
temporary.
But I mean, here we can see that the mom is probably just trying to find ways to stay with the child.
Yeah.
Yun yung intention. And the
I think so too.
student visa should not be used for that purpose, right? So, she probably will not be granted another
I think so too.
student
For another
visa.
student
And if
visa.
she applies for a visitor visa, it's probably also going to be refused because you've been in Australia for the last 3 years, right? So, what would be her option?
AAT.
I was gonna
Appeals.
say, well,
Appeal to the
she's
tribunal.
already in Australia, so
And the decision would take like another 3 years. So by the time
so her
then-
option is refuse and then appeal it to the administrative appeals tribunal. And then by the time they get to her case, her child would have
has already
finished
graduated.
the medical studies.
Yeah.
Everybody happy, right? So that's an example of scenario on why they would refuse a visa application.
Under any other relevant matter.
Okay. But, I mean, we're just making light of it, but in reality, that would probably stress the mom out, right?
I think so too. Any refusal would be so stressful.
Yeah, even though we could tell them, well, now you can stay in Australia. Isn't that what you wanted?
But still, the
But
fact
still,
that
in the back of your mind, you're
refused.
the weight of a refusal on a person is very stressful, even though your goal is probably going to be met, because her original
to stay in
intention
Australia.
is just to be with her child.
Well, the child is studying.
Yeah, to keep an eye. Mami naman, 18 years old na. Bakit sinasamahan mo pa? Kaya anyway, that's a good example because it's very common. Yeah. There are other scenarios here, but it doesn't really apply. It's about under 16-year-old students. So we're not going to read
minor
with that.
applicants. Yeah.
So at least we've given you an idea on on how visa officers assess your application for a student visa, and what policies the visa officers refer to for guidance. So it's actually a very long document. The part that we only read to you is a very, very small part, any other relevant matter. But even though it's a small part, it's the most important part.
Any other
Right?
relevant matter, yeah. It's very vague.
Yeah. It's very general and subject to
The
interpretation.
Yeah, interpretation
Yeah.
of the case officer. So when you apply for a visa, just pray that the visa officer,
Is in a good mood.
Yeah. Otherwise, she or he won't even take time to look at the policies.
But you know what? If you don't get the visa, then there's, if when one door closes, another opens,
True.
So it could be that maybe Australia is not for you. Maybe
Try
you're
considering other options.
maybe you were supposed to study in US or Canada.
New Zealand.
Yeah, or New Zealand, but we don't process that.
Yeah.
But we're just we're just saying you should have you should be prepared 50-50 whether it's approved or refused. Well, I don't want to mention the YouTuber si Chef RV kasi.
Okay.
Do you know Chef RV,
No,
the
no,
YouTuber?
Okay.
He mentioned in his channel that he was supposed to study in Australia
And
at La
then?
Cordon Bleu, and his visa got refused.
Okay. Now he is.
And then he ended up studying in the US instead because his Australian visa got refused. And now look at him now. He's like a big YouTuber now. So
Tama.
Diba?
If a door closes, then other windows would open for
so
you. So
maybe he wouldn't have been a
he
a
wouldn't
big
have been
YouTuber
as famous
celebrity
in Australia if
kung natuloy
siya
yun siya dito. Correct.
So,
Ayan. So we're just telling it as it is. Not everybody is successful. So that wraps up our episode for today. So again, we are Enhance NT, located in 590 Mitchell Street, Darwin. You can email us at skills@enhancent.com.au or call us at 0879792352. Please like, subscribe, and share our social media platforms. Thank you for joining us on this video podcast.
remember, whether you're an international student aspiring to study abroad or a professional looking to work in Australia, it is essential to seek professional advice, stay informed, and embrace the opportunities that migration brings.
Here at Enhance Down Under, we will help you choose the right path for your career goals. Up until next time, thank you.